for supporting me on Patreon. It means so much to me. Hey, welcome back, or welcome if you are new to my channel. I am finally today making another soft-spoken Warhammer 40,000 Codex ASMR. I am really enjoying making these videos. Exploring the Warhammer 40,000 universe is such a pleasant experience for me, and I'm having so much fun sharing this new interest together with you. But today we are going through the Codex for the Eldar. If I'm not entirely wrong, this is the 9th edition, so it's almost the newest. I found this second hand at a local thrift shop for $8, and usually I found them for $4 and under, but I thought it was worth making a video on. The cover is really beautiful on this one. I am not the biggest fan of the Eldars. If you have followed me, then you might know that I really enjoy the Tyranids and hope to find a codex to make a video with those one day. But I do hope you will sit back and relax and enjoy this video together with me. Thank you for watching. Let's get into it. Here is the absolutely beautiful cover of the Warhammer 40,000 Codex for the Eldar. I think this is such a pretty book, such a nice codex. Let's read the backside information first. As you might see, this was firstly bought from my favorite store here in Sweden, SF Bokhandeln, which is the science fiction bookstore. And the price back then was 370 crowns, which is roughly $40. And here is at the second-hand store. I paid 80 crowns, which is $8. The Sons of Cain, the Eldar embody excellence in the arts of war. Their psychic abilities are unparalleled, with their elite armies are without peer. Yet their pride in their own supremacy led to the downfall of their civilization. Allies of the spirit that saw their culture all but eradicated by the galactic cataclysm known as the Fall. Now, seer and civilian alike battle for the survival of the great Craftworlds upon which they ply the stars. Led by visionary leaders and deadly aspect warriors, their armies fight fiercely against the upstart races of the galaxy, determined that their empire will blaze once more into glorious light before the fate consigns them to oblivion. This is a beautiful artwork as well. I really enjoy these codexes. They are very amazing. Eldar, a dying flame in the darkness. First up are some contents. Introduction, the Eldar and the Fall, the Doom of the Eldar, the Eldar Warhost, and continued the Eldar Warhost, the Forge of Wall, Colors of the Craftworlds, Forces of the Eldar, and references. mysterious Eldar were once the mightiest race of all. Millennia ago, their pride led to a cataclysm that all but eradicated them. Now they cling to survival by a thread, fighting the horrors of the galaxy with ritualized discipline and consummate skill. Before the Imperium of Man conquered the stars, before the human race had even crawled forth from the oceans of its own world, the Eldar ruled supreme. Their empire was without equal, and they counted themselves masters of the stars. Despite their boundless power, the heart of their civilization was torn out by a catastrophe of their own making, forcing the surviving Eldar to flee upon gigantic starships called Craftworlds. Now they battle against their destiny, a relentless war in which only their perpetual skill and exceptional technologies stave off a cold final death. The Craftworld Eldar. The Eldar are highly advanced and deadly aliens, feared across the galaxy even as their race is slowly dying. A typical Eldar army consists of a specialist units that each excel at one of the arts of war. If all the elements of the Eldar army works in concert, they are practically unstoppable. Used skillfully, the Eldar can destroy any enemy force in short order, crushing their enemies in style. I do think the Eldar helmets are a little bit goofy. See, here you can see more of their helmets. They are long and tall. Looks almost like the head of a squid, if you know what I'm talking about. The Eldar and the Fall. The ancient history of the Eldar stretches back over the millennia to a time where they dominated the stars completely. Yet, for all their splendor and might, the Eldar brought a terrible curse upon themselves that surrounded their empire forever, leaving the ravaged fragment of their race teetering on the brink of annihilation. Lost in the vastness of space, the Craftworlds float in utter isolations like scattered jewels upon a pall of velvet. Distant from the warmth of sun or planet, their domes gaze into the darkness of empty space. Inner lights glisten like phosphorus through semi-transparent surfaces. Within them live the survivors of a civilization abandoned aeons ago, amidst terrifying destruction. These are the Eldar, a race that is all but extinct, the last remnants of a people whose mere dreams were overtuned worlds and quenched suns. The star-faring history of the Eldar is long indeed, and encompasses glories and sorrows alike. When their empire was at its height, their homeworlds were paradises, their powers godlike, and their armies unsurpassed. As the centuries slid past, their status as lords of the galaxy bred an arrogance that led to a cataclysmic end. A portion of the race survived that dark time by fleeing from disaster upon the great vessels known as Craftworlds. Others settled verdant planets far from the heart of their empire, and still more hid in private realms of their own making. Yet there were no real escape from what was to come. Children of the Stars. To understand the Eldar's empire's plunge from zenith to nadir, one must first learn of their fickle nature. In appearance they are like unto humans, although the comparison can only be made on a superficial basis. For in their minds and soul, the Eldar are truly alien. The Eldar stand taller than a man, with longer, cleaner limbs and handsome, striking features. Their skin is pale and unblemished as polished marble, yet with a surprisingly supple strength hiding beneath it. Their keen ears are pointed and their slanted eye possesses a penetrating quality more akin to that of a hunting cat than a man. The most fundamental difference can be seen where the Eldar move, for they each radiate an inhuman elegance and poise. This is especially evident in the sinuous grace with which they fight and the dexterity in which they wield their weaponry. Every gesture is laden with subtle intent, and their reflexes are dazzlingly fast. A casual languid gesture can end in a pinpoint thrust should the necessary arise. Descent into decadence. The cataclysm that brought about the Eldar's race fall came from the very depths of the Eldar's collective psyche. The innate need to fuel their passion and indulge in every extreme. The Eldar had long outgrown the need for labor or manual agriculture. Society provided all that was required without individual effort, leaving long centuries for the Eldar to spend sating their every desire. Fueled by an inexhaustible curiosity, many gave away their most hedonistic impulses. Exotic cults sprang up across the Eldar domains that eclipsed the noble pursuits of old, each dedicated to a stoic knowledge or sensual excess. The birth of a dark god. Within the warp, though, and emotions flew together, fed by fellow feelings until they achieve a consciousness of sorts. They become entities of greater or lesser potency depending on the intensity of their origin. Amidst the swirling psychic energy of the Empyrean, the corruption of the decadent Eldar became manifest on a horrifying scale as the flood of raw emotions coalesced into a gestalt consciousness. The death of an empire. The epicenter of the psychic apocalypse lay within the gilded heart of the Eldar realm. All Eldar within thousands of light years were reduced to lifeless husks, their souls forever claimed. Even those who had foreseen the catastrophe and fled upon the Craftworlds were overwhelmed, with only those furthest from the devastation surviving. The remote exodite worlds remained largely untouched, but within the space of a single moment, the Eldar had become a doomed people. Their nemesis was born and would hunt them down for the rest of eternity. Though the psychic shockwave focused upon the Eldar, billions of humans, orcs and creatures from other races were obliterated as well. Warp space convulsed as a cosmic hurricane raged across the galaxy. The fabric of reality was torn apart and the warp spilled from the dimensional rift into the material universe, turning hope into despair and paradise into hell. Psychers of all races howled with the pain as their people dived in storms of blood and madness. The fight for survival. In the aftermath of the fall, the Eldar have faced a long and painful decline. On far-flung planets teeming with natural life, the Exodites have carved themselves a survivalist niche. Savage primal places where everyday life was hard. These realms helped the Exodites to remain focused on the ascetic lifestyle they had chosen. At first, many of their number fought and died against dangerous aliens, as the green-skinned orcs, or even the soldiers of the nascent Imperium, but many others survived, reaching equilibrium and living in harmony with their adopted worlds. The time of ending. As if the unnatural hunger of a voracious and sinister god was not dire enough threat, the Eldar must also contend with a galaxy no longer theirs. In their bloody wake of the fall, the race of mankind have grown to preeminence. The Imperium has ascended, conquering much of the galaxy in the name of the corpse god it calls Emperor. The Eldar, whose maturation patterns span nearly a century, cannot compete in numbers with a race whose generations multiply with the frantic pace of virgin. Raw manpower is the Imperium's greatest strength, but also its weakness. The Eldar Path as a protection against the lure of excess and to guard against any recurrence of the fall, the people of the Craftworlds adhere to set a stricture known as a path. Through the rigid emotional discipline of the path, they master their inclination towards sensation-seeking, instead of focusing on their prodigious intellect and energies upon the pursuit of one specific god. Since the fall, those Eldar who fled upon the Craftworlds have faced their inescapable doom. The battles they have fought in the name of survival have been many and violent, yet their most important struggle is a spiritual one, for the nature of their psyche remains fundamentally unchanged. As ever they were, the Eldar are prone to emotional extremes. Perhaps the greatest difference between the ancient Eldar and their descendants is that the Craftworlds have learned to fear wanton experience, shunning the indulgence of the past. To ensure temptation is put behind them, the philosophy often called Elethra, or the path, governs every aspect of the Craftworld life, enabling the Eldar to harness their emotional and intellectual intensity safely without jeopardizing themselves or those around them. The path of the warrior. The Eldar are a race beset on all sides by warfare. Would that it were not this way, for the Eldar generations are few and far between, and they can ill afford to lose their numbers. Young Eldar often believe they can rebuild the glory of their empire with fire and passion, but their Eldar know well that their shadowless civilization is locked in a struggle for simple survival. Because of this unavoidable truth, more and more Eldar walk the warrior path with every passing year. The path of the abandoned. Sometimes the rigid constraints of the path are intolerable even for an Eldar to bear. Such individuals leave their Craftworlds and voluntarily become outcasts. Many Eldar spend years or decades in exile before they return to the path. During this time, they must bear the terrible burden of their heightened consciousness without the protective of a rigid self-discipline. Their psychically sensitive minds are a beacon to predatory demons, and in particular to the great enemy Slanesh, who only Eldar of especially strong characters can survive for long. After years of adventure, wandering and sailing the seas of space, most Eldar eventually returned to the sanctuary of the path. Domains of the Eldar. The space-faring Craftworlds are the means by which the remnants of the Eldar Empire travels the stars. Vast in size, unfathomable in technology, mystical in construction, and desperately outnumbered in a galaxy full of hostile worlds. Before the fall, some Eldar fled from the encroaching cataclysm, and continent-sized spaceships known as Craftworlds, ensuring that a tiny portion of the Eldar race found safety as the cost of permanent exile. Some of these Craftworlds survived for hundreds or even thousands of years before the people faded and died, while others endure to this day. Many floated into the void and were lost forever in the regions of space that remain dark and unexplored. They may be here still, lonely and forgotten in the wilderness of deep space. The Webway. The Eldar Craftworlds float in deep space and move only at sublight speed. Their exact locations are not known by other races, and the Eldar themselves consider their physical position nothing more than a momentarily detail in an eternal journey. Smaller Eldar spacecraft, dotted around each Craftworld's fringes like shoaling fish around an elegant leviathan, travel between the Craftworlds by means of the Webway. The main gateways into that strange and shattered realm take the form of swirling spheres and lights and darkness held in steadies astern of each craft world. Eldar technology. As with all of the Eldar's most prized artifacts, the Webway was brought into being by psychic means. No other race has ever replicated the Eldar's unique approach to technology, nor have the Eldar taken learnings from the primitive races that have inherited the galaxy. The brutality and ignorance of mankind appalls the Eldar, whilst the aloof arrogance of the Eldar races fosters little trust in others. A living world. Every craft world is built upon a skeleton of wraithbone, whose structure extends throughout the gigantic craft. A similar skeletal core lies at the heart of the most Eldar constructions and every one of their spacecraft. In function, these cores are similar to the blood vessels and nervous systems of a living creature, pumping life-giving energy around the body and also transmitting the impulses that coordinate its many functions. Spirit stones. The only artifact more precious than a wraithbone are waystones, also known as the tears of Isha, or, if they contain a departed Eldar soul, spirit stones. Every Eldar wears a shining gem or polished stone upon his breast. This psychoreceptive waystone is attuned too solely to the mind of its owner. Its purpose is to capture the psychic energy of the wearer when it's released at the moment of death, becoming a spirit stone. As such energy carries on with them. A large part of an Eldar's sense of identity, personality, and memories is quite correct to think of them as souls. Biltan, the Stormwind. The Eldar of Biltan constantly strive to return the ancient Eldar Empire to its former glory. Consumed with bitterness, they wage an endless campaign of genocide against those foolish enough to cross their path. The militant Eldar of Biltan place greater importance upon the path of the warrior than other craft worlds. They know that if a new empire is to be forged, it will be done in the crucible of battle, tempered in strife and quenched in blood. As a result, the exarch of Biltan number more than any other craft worlds. Ulthwé, the Damned. It is whispered by those of other craft worlds that the Eldars of Ulthwé have damned by their proximity to the Eye of Terror, exaggerating their psychic potential. Those of Ulthwé know instead that they are a bulwark between the survival of the race and utter destruction. Craftworld Ulthwé is home to the many of the most powerful psykers in the galaxy. The Eldar of Ulthwé cast themselves as sentinels, keeping an endless vigil over the dread gulf known as Eye of Terror. There, the elite cadres of far seas keep watch for many and varied guises of chaos, for Ulthwé's many talented mystics can foresee future events with a greater precision than those of their other craft worlds. Seyman, the Wild Host. The jet-bike-riding kindreds of the same Hein are renowned for their preference for fast mobile warfare, striking as a serpent before falling back beyond the reach of retaliation. Theirs is a craft full of ancient tradition and a proud warrior culture. Alaitok, the Star Striders. The Eldars of Alaitok have spread their influence further afield than any other craft worlds, sending agents across the galaxy to act as their eyes and ears. On the battlefield, they favor stealth and misdirection over brute force, killing silently and with skill wherever they can. Ianden, the Ghost Warriors. The once great craft world of Ianden is now a place of ghosts and as much as of the living. Despite this, the Eldar of the Faded Realm do not meekly accept their fate. Instead, they call ever more of the fallen ancestors back into the fight for survival. And there are some Wanderers of the Stars. Altanzar, the Broken Chain, Laganaf, the Black Sun, Imalak, the Crucible of Souls, Ilkaif, the Helm of Elandanesh, Vibrisel, Wisdom from Pain, Mimera, the Cursing Eye. Some really beautiful artwork, probably of the Eldar craft worlds or home planet, once in time. The Doom of the Eldar. The ancient history of the Eldar is more the subject of myth and legend rather than historical fact. Much of what is known was lost during the devastation of the Fall. In the millennia since that cataclysmic event, the Eldar have been forced into relentless battle for survival, pressed on all sides by a galaxy teeming with alien races that would see them destroyed. In the warp, she who thirsts awaits to consume the unwary. The Eldar have no choice. They must fight with every weapon at their disposal or die out altogether. And here's a lot of the fabled Eldar history. Empire Ascendant, a sickness of the spirit, darkness rising, the great exodus, the hidden king, the fall, the rise of man, pride of the phoenix, the shattering of Laganaf, the ghostly harvest, a cruel thirst, war in the webway. And it continues. So much lore in this game, I love it. The Sons of Cain, the coming of the great devourer, Mandrax stirs, the death of Gnosis Prime, the perfect war, the doom of Melanthai, a clash of scorpions, the roar of the beast, the exiled prince, the time of ending, the devoured essence, sanctity breached, the biopurge, the might of chaos. The Eldar Warhost. This section of the book details the forces used by the Eldar, their weapons, their units, and the special characters that led them to war, including any unique war gear that they used in battle. Each entry describes a unit and gives the specific rules you will need in order to use it in your games. The army list, page 90 to 103, refers back to these entries. Avatar of Cain, incarnation of the bloody-handed god. In the heart of every craft world lies a sealed wraithbone chamber. Inside, upon a smouldering throne, sits a towering statue of iron. His body is pitted with age and encrusted with a patina of corrosion. His slitted eyes reveal only empty darkness. The skeletal structure of his sanctum stretches through the entire craft world, its strands connecting every part to its inert form. Autarchs. There is an avenue of the warrior path walked by only a few. The Eldar term for it is roughly translated as the path of the leader or the path of command, and those who travel far enough along it are known by the title of Autarch. Seers of the Eldar. Farseers. Master of prediction, the Farseers are the strangest and most visionary of a Craftworld's advisors. Even in battle, they can perform their divinations, casting the complex wrathbone runes of the Eldar into air and interpreting changes in the glowing icons orbit around them. Spirit Seers. Spirit Seers are those upon the witch path who are called to commune with the dead, a chilling concept even amongst the Eldar. Though Spirit Seers helps to ensure the survival of the entire Eldar race, their actions are perceived by those around them as akin to necromancy. Yet another depth in the craft worlds must sink in their struggle to stave off a lingering demise. Exarch. Eldar Exarch are the war aspect of Cain embodied. They are high priest of the bloody-handed god, the keepers of his shrines and the teachers of his creed. Dire Avengers. The Dire Avengers are first amongst the aspects warriors of the Eldar. They represent the war god's unending thirst for vengeance upon a galaxy of woe. As such, they are merciless to their foes and unstinting in their devotion to their people. Howling Banshees. Howling Banshees are swift and athletic troops who are famously deadly in hand-to-hand fighting. They are renowned for their ability to strike down their foe before they can so much as raise a blade. Striking Scorpions. The Striking Scorpions epitomize the deadly attributes of their namesake, for they are the stealthiest and yet the most dangerous of all the close assaults aspect. They are merciless killers without exception, reveling only in the hunt and the kill. Fire Dragons. The Fire Dragon aspect styles itself upon the dragons of Eldar myth, as the sinuous fire-breathing reptile that represents wanton destruction. All Fire Dragons aspect warriors are aggressive and warlike and seek nothing less than the total annihilation of their chosen foes. Swooping Hogs. In ancient times, the Eldar believed that the spirit of a murdered Eldar would pass into a hog and hover above the killer as a mark of guilt. The swooping hogs take their name from the wild hunting birds, for they are synonymous with the vengeance and retribution. Dark Reapers. In all things, the Dark Reapers take their learnings from the Phoenix Lord Maugandra, the most grim and foreboding of all Eldar. Maugandra teaches that the kiss of death can be delivered from afar with the grace and ruthless efficiency. It is this credo that is central to the way of the Reaper. Warp Spiders. The warp spiders take their name from the tiny but aggressive creature that are seen amongst the slender wraithbone trees of the dome of the crystal seers. These sparkling entities can move anywhere within the craft world, melting their arcanoid bodies into the infinity circuit and crystallizing to reappear at a new location. Shining Spears. The Shining Spears possesses a bright and clear virtue that marks each one out as a warrior hero and a champion of the Eldar race. Eldar mythology is replete with examples of noble heroes that won with their speed and in their shining spears. The glories of legend are manifest once more. In battle, they fight as the spears of Kelamencha Kane, which struck like lightning and killed with a single blow. Crimson Hunters. The aspect warriors known as the Crimson Hunters are amongst the most unusual of their kind. The ritual war gear is not blade or side-up, but instead a sleek aerial fighter that represent the pinnacle of Eldar aeronautics. Guardian of the Craftworlds. It is a painful irony that, in the Eldar race's endless quest for survival, the very civilians the Warhost fight to protect are too often forced to take up arms. Most of the defenders and soldiers are just civilians of the Eldar race. Warwalkers. Sacrificing armor in favor of hard-hitting weaponry and maneuverability, the graceful bipedal warwalkers are often seen in the forward lines of the Eldar armies. The role of a warwalker in the armies of the Eldar is that of aggressive reconnaissance. When the enemy is located, the warwalkers stride forwards to pin them in place. Carried forward on a surprisingly agile limbs, warwalkers are universally armed with two heavy weapons such as a shuriken cannon, scatter lasers or star cannons. Viper Squadrons. The size of the sleek skimmer known as a Viper jetbike believes in its lethal bite. Vipers fight as squadrons in the mights of the Eldar's fearsome Windrider hosts, offering a perfect compromise between the speed of a jetbike and the heavier armament of a grav tank. Eldar grav tanks. The grav tanks of the Eldar, called engines of Val, are immaculate beyond the ken of the lesser races. Aeronautical triumphs that combine ethereal grace with a deceptive lethality. Not for them the ground churning rumble of imperial tanks or the old racing incontinence of the vehicles cobbled together by orcs mechanics. Instead, the sleek battlecraft of the Eldar glide through the smoke-filled skies. The nimble falcon, as silent as the deadly fire prisms at a gigantic cobra. Harlequins. For the warrior dances of the Harlequins, there is no distinction between art and war. Followers of the cunning deity known as the Laughing God, they are the strangest and most indestructible of all the Eldar race. Their mastery of the physical arts, twinned with their incredible speed, makes the Harlequins truly deadly fighters. Every moment is a performance, and they perform the legendary masks with a puissant skill, flair and passion, their hallmark upon the field of battle. Rangers. The Rangers of the Eldar are unparalleled scout and expert marksmen, although they adopt a nomadic lifestyle to escape the rigors of the Eldar path. Most of these outcasts remain loyal to their craft world and traditions. Wraith God and Wraith Blades. For the Eldar, death does not guarantee respite from war. for the race's need in greater that is of consonant souls. With the guidance of a seer, it is possible for an Eldar spirit to separate itself from the infinity circuit and flow into a spirit stone put aside for that purpose. Wraith Lords. Wraith Lords are lithe but mighty nobles that dwarf even their Wraith God cousins. These static constructs are extremely precious to the Craftworlds and, due to their wraithborn construction, have a supernatural toughness that surpasses even that of adamantium. Wraith Knights. Looming ghost warriors many times larger than even the mighty Wraith Lords. The war machines known as Wraith Knights are still dexterous enough to run through the ruin of a shattered city, leaping from pillar to spar as their arcane weapons bring oblivion to their enemies of the Eldar. Hemlock Wraith Fighters. The Hemlock Wraith Fighters is the subject of most controversy among the Craftworlds, for it is a weapon of utmost terror. To use such a device is to teeter on the brink of atrocity. Only the most dire of circumstances could force the Eldar to employ such an abhorrent device, and those who do so have a stain upon their soul that is not easily erased. Eldrad Ultharian. Chief amongst the Farseers of Ulthwé is Eldrad Ultharan. Eldrad has lived for over 10,000 years and successfully guided his people along the twisted path of the Faith since the fall of the Eldar and throughout the rise of the Imperium. It was his prognostications that rescued in the armies of Ulthwé, moving suddenly and unexpectedly against the orcs. Prince Uriel, Outrage of High Admiral of the Eldritch Raiders and bastard scion of the House of Ulthranach. Prince Uriel is a consummate Eldar commander. In his youth, despite his lack of years, he was chosen to walk the path of command, a level of trust that many speculated was unwarranted, especially in the light of future events. Ilnik Nightspear, the Walker of the Hidden Path. Ilrik Nightspear of Alaitok has wandered the path of the outcast for thousands of years, striding the skins of fate and seeking out the unknown path that spawned the galaxy. He is known to different rangers bands by many different titles: the Sentinel of the Stars, the Wayforger, the Shield of Azurman, the Hand of Azurian. Azurman is the first and oldest of the legendary Phoenix Lords, those most ancient of Exarch from whom the aspects themselves were crafted. Each is a demigod of a battle whose legends span across the stars, imbued with supernatural powers that grant them the ability to cheat death. Jainsar, the Storm of Silence. When Azurman raised the original aspect warriors, he became the first of the Azuria, the children of Azur. First to learn under Azurman's tutelage was Jainsar, a passionate Eldar swords maiden, famed for her speed and ferocity. Karandras, the Shadow Hunter. Karandras is the most mysterious of the Phoenix Lords. No one knows where his shrine originally lay. Perhaps it was one of the small craftworks that survived the fall but was destroyed soon after. Or perhaps it does not even exist in the material dimensions at all. Fuegan, the Burning Lands. When the Azuria made their way across the galaxy, it was Fuegan who founded the Shrines of the Fire Dragon upon the Craftworlds. The warrior aspects whose teachings advocated the other annihilations of enemy, so that his demise is assured beyond all doubt. There are so many different clans and aspects and heroes of the Eldars. This is really, really interesting. Bararoth, the Cry of the Wind. Bararoth is the oldest of the Swooping Hawks, the first exarch to master aerial combat, and the founder of the warrior path that is represented by Swooping Hawks shrines throughout the Craftworlds. Magan Ra, the Harvester of Souls. Altanzar was one of the many Craftworlds, large and small, has survived the fall. It rode out the initial psychic shockwaves that destroyed the Eldar realms, but was subsequently caught in the gravity well of the Eye of Terror. Although the Eldar of Altanzar fought valiantly against the encroachment of chaos, they were unable to escape their inevitable doom. The Forge of All. This section of Codex Eldar lists the weapons and equipment used by the Craftworld Warhost, along with the rules for using them in your games of Warhammer 40,000. Okay. Some more technical points for the game. Some beautiful examples of different Eldar armies. I assume the largest one is the Wraith Knights. Colors of the Craftworlds. An Eldar army arrayed for war is a splendid sight. The ritual colors of the aspect warriors sit alongside the vibrant heraldry of the Craftworlds to form an impressive spectacle on the battlefield. So a lot of examples or guides how to pay them and in what colors to have them correctly painted to the lower faction they are from. The largest one is a Wraith Knight. I really enjoy this blue and yellow golden colors. Forces of the Eldar. The following army list enables you to field an army of Eldar and fight battles using the missions included in the Warhammer 40,000 rulebook. A lot of more informations. This book is such in a good condition. Like the pages are still so glossy that I'm having issues with page turning. It just slips away from me. And some references. It opens up that way. But that was the last page. I do feel that my throat is taking a lot of damage from this really long reading lore books and strategy guides and Warhammer content. because these long videos are starting to take its toll on me. I am trying not to rush it, but we will be here forever, and I really like to just glance over these books. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I wish you a good night if you are falling asleep, or I wish you to be able to breathe out and relax if you're still awake. Thank you for watching. Feel free to check out my Patreon for more exclusive